There we go. All right. We are live on Facebook. You want to stream it to your site too, Shweta?
I am. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get it. I've got your page up here. Oops.
Hello, everybody. Let us just get set up for just a sec.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
What it's doing.
Here we go.
Sorry, I'm trying to figure out why this isn't showing up. Oh, there it is. All right, here we go. And share.
What I want, though, is to see. Okay.
Sorry, trying to figure out.
I see it, Shweta, so I think we'll.
I see it, and I'm trying to do. Oh, here we go. Share. Share on my page. Here we go.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay. Great. Hello.
Great. Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Heart Mind Happy Hour Live. This is my weekly show where I merge ancient wisdom and modern science to help people have a clear mind and vibrant body and become unlimited. And I'm your host, Holly Copeland. And I am very excited today to have energy healer and hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapist, Shweta Shyamani here. Welcome, Shweta.
Thanks, Holly. Great to be here.
It is so awesome to have you here. And thank you for everybody on Facebook who's joining in with us live. I know you've got some fans out there, so I'm really excited. Hope they have fun getting a chance to see. Yeah. And folks, please do, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll try to monitor that and watch them as they come. So to get started, so Shweta, I'm so interested in your background because you're a former executive, kind of on the business track, it sounds like, and then you jumped track and followed and aligned your heart and followed your passion. And now are doing energy work and all these cool things that you're going to share with us today. So tell me a little bit to start us off, about your story. I'm just really curious what happened.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So I started out in a really traditional business career. My undergrad was in finance, and then my graduate degree was in marketing strategy and org behavior. And I was just, living the corporate life. And I had a good job. I had a great job, actually. And I was working my way up the corporate ladder, and I had every intention of landing in the C-suite. I was a marketing person, and I wanted to be a chief marketing officer for a major company. And I was in the financial services industry at the time, and had all the nice title and corner office and big budget and perks and all that. And I was totally miserable. And at the time, I didn't have the kind of personal growth experience or the vocabulary to say I was unfulfilled, the work wasn't meaningful to me, but that's really what was happening. It took me a decade to figure that out, that was what was bothering me. But I knew that I felt awful when I would go to work. I would dread going to work, and I would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and work out with a trainer and be late to work every single day. And so that was a way that some higher part of myself was saying, this is just not in alignment for you. And a lot of people were saying this is the perfect job. And it just wasn't my perfect job. So I left corporate very abruptly, just 5 days before 9/11. And just stepped into a space of total uncertainty and not knowing what was next for me. And I became an entrepreneur. And I did a few things before I started doing this healing work. And while I was doing my other entrepreneurial work, my mom had been sick for quite some time, for most of my life. And Western medicine had sort of come to a dead end for her. They really didn't have any options for her, and she was in severe chronic pain. And so we had to look for alternatives. And that's when I started really learning about all of these other modalities and these other techniques and these other options that we have to manage our health. And it wasn't overly foreign to me because I'm of Indian descent. And so natural medicine and homeopathic remedies were something that were very present in our home. But these techniques of working with energy and working with the bioenergetic field and all of the different energetic structures that weave through our mind and body was quite new to me and extremely exciting. And so as we were, finding things for her to try to help find relief for her, I was just completely captivated by it. And then that became just my calling. And so since then, and it's been a decade now, I've been studying and practicing all of these modalities and helping people with physical and emotional issues.
Awesome. Wow. What a story. Yeah, I love hearing stories about sort of following your heart, and, it's a very courageous thing to do, to leave your job. You must have been terrified.
I wasn't. I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. In fact, I remember the morning that I left, I had no plan to leave. I mean, I was miserable, but I didn't have any kind of exit strategy. And that morning, I had an out-of-body experience, and it's my only out-of-body experience that I've had. And I kind of watched myself go into the chief marketing officer's office. And I was like a third person in the room. It was myself and him, and then me observing myself. And I was hearing for the first time the words that I was resigning. And so it was like there was some part of me that took over, and it was really less courage. It was more self-preservation, because knowing what I now know about the mind-body connection, I have no doubt that had I stayed on, my body would have spoken to me with some sort of a symptom or some sort of a disease or diagnosis that would have really got my attention. So it was really self-preservation more than anything.
Yeah. Wow. So you've been doing this for 10 years. So let's just start by talking a little bit about what is energy work. And what are the kinds of things that you do and work with?
Yeah, so energy work is something that it might sound really sort of mysterious and woo-woo, but it's very scientifically based. And we actually now have a whole body of science, quantum physics, that gives us an understanding of working with energy. But energy is nothing new. I mean, it's something that ancient traditions have been working with for millennia, right? And so, I mean, Chinese medicine and the Vedic tradition, I mean, all of these healing tradition and healing arts are very, very deeply rooted and anchored in ancient wisdom, cultures. So energy is really just the life force. It's that thing which animates our physiology. Without energy, without the kind of energy that we're talking about, which is the subtle energies, there is no life. And so in Chinese medicine, they call it qi. In the yogic tradition, they call it prana. So people might be familiar with those words, but it's really just energy, and it's the force of life that animates all living things. And energy, just like we have our physical structures and physical systems in our body, the circulatory system, the respiratory system, the reproductive system, we have energetic systems. We have the chakra system, we have the meridian system, we have the electrical system. And it's really not that far reaching, because when we think about it, our nervous system is electrical, right? It's very just understood in biology that our cells have positive and negative charge, right? We have protons, neutrons, and electrons. We have protons and neutrons in the nucleus of the cell, and the electrons rotate around it. And so there's an electrical charge that's in our body. And so the nervous system is electrical, and that's understood. And the energetic system works very closely with the nervous system because it's just another form of energy. And in fact, in an embryo, the first two systems to develop are, in fact, the energy system or electromagnetic system and the nervous system. In fact, it's been shown that the nervous system actually is built on instructions from the electromagnetic system. So the electromagnetics are really the foundational system on which the body is built. And so working with the energies means simply finding places in the body where those energies are blocked or constricted or restricted or somehow made dysfunctional, and opening those pathways using either magnets or light touch, or you can use needles. I don't use acupuncture needles. I use acupressure. You can use sound therapy, you can use light therapy. There are all different ways to move those energies. And it's really, really amazing what you can actually accomplish just by working with the energy systems.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't know that about the energy system being what you were talking about, the first system to form in the body and being foundational to the nervous system. That was new information for me. So that's interesting. Great. So a lot of the work that you do is remote work, which I think to some people would sound like magic. But when we know and understand that the fluidity of energy and the lack of separateness, then of course it does make sense. Talk a little bit about that. Could you?
Yeah, absolutely. So remote energy work is really not as weird as it sounds, because it's been proven again in science that there is, in this thing that we consider to be empty space, it's actually filled with energy. It's filled with, I mean, even think about it, that right now your TV set might not be on because you're watching us. But when you turn your TV set on, it's a way to pick up those energetic waves, right? That the TV station is broadcasting. So this thing of empty space is filled with energy and with pure potential, if you will. And so if we know that everything is connected through this field of energy, and that this field of energy is actually vibration, because that's what energy is, it's vibration, it's not solid, right? E equals mc squared. Energy is the E in that formula. So if you know that everything is vibration, then we are all sort of vibrating, or we are vibrating on certain frequencies. And each of us has a unique energetic signature, and think of it as like our own personal radio station. We're constantly transmitting and receiving information that's being broadcast in our environment. And working with people remotely is simply tuning in to their radio frequency. It's really that simple. And so if you've been trained to do that, and again, this is something everybody can do. I received training in this. Anybody can do this. If you can tune into somebody's radio station frequency, then you can start receiving the messages that are being broadcast, whether they're messages of health and well-being or they're messages of dysfunction or disease. You can start receiving information and then start doing something with it on the energetic level.
Mm-hmm. So when you're working with a client and you receive information from them, then you will start to help you. Will you work on manipulating their energy? Will you ask them, like you mentioned acupressure, for example, ask them to touch certain points? How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. It could be both. It could be actually both. It depends on what it is that we're working on. And many times when I'm working with people remotely, one of the things that I use as a tool is mental imagery. And mental imagery is used in lots of different practices in psychology. And the imagination is extraordinary. And I know that we think of imagination as something that's child's play, and it's really just relegated to when we're little. But imagination is exceedingly powerful. And the mind doesn't know the difference, or the brain at least doesn't know the difference between something that's being vividly imagined and something that's happening in reality. And the language of the mind actually is not verbal, it's symbolic. Our dreams are our subconscious mind processing the events of the day and the events of our life. And that's mostly symbolism. And so mental imagery is extremely powerful, because you can guide a client to actually imagine, balance being restored where balance currently isn't. And so sometimes I'm guiding people, sometimes I'm working with the energy on behalf of them, sort of as a surrogate. And I'll track them. I'll ask the clients, so what are you feeling? What's happening? What's coming into your awareness? So it's very much a partnership. I'm not fixing them. I always tell clients, I'm not fixing anything. I'm not fixing you. All we're doing is we're just kind of creating flow where flow has been impeded, so that your body can do what it naturally knows how to do and restore its own balance.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, we talked a little bit about trying to dive in and giving people some tips, and I'm sure our watchers would love to hear about how to do this work if everybody can do it, which I very much agree with you and believe that that's possible. So maybe do you want to start by just talking a little bit about, so how do you start that process of working with your own energy, and where do you begin?
Well, one thing that you should really be aware of is that, the mind body energy systems are all really, really linked, right? We can't
Mhm.
segregate or separate one without considering the others. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, Western medicine has done that. And I think that that's what sometimes creates issues. And it certainly did in my mom's case, right? Because her body was being looked at as this machine, which on some level it is. But even though the machine was supposedly, according, to her neurosurgeon from a very, very esteemed medical institution here in Chicago, he had said, well, the machine is fine. The surgery was successful. All the scans, everything is perfect. You shouldn't be having pain. And yet she was having debilitating pain. So clearly the issue wasn't in the machine, right?
Mhm.
The issue was elsewhere. And so when you start looking at mind and energy, the other parts of that three-part formula, if you will, you can start identifying, okay, well, maybe there are some things on these other levels of our being, right, which are
Mhm.
intrinsically linked with the physiology. So when we talk about energy work, we're really involving the body. So I think it's a misperception sometimes when people think like, oh, I'm just working in these kind of invisible realms. You're very much using the body as a barometer and as a tool and biofeedback mechanism to kind of track and see what's going on, in addition to tracking things on the energy level. So for people who want to
Mhm.
work with their energies, the first thing I would say to do is start creating a better body awareness. In our culture, we are kind of we're dead from the neck down, right? We're very, very steeped in the intellect and using our brain to like problem solve and think, and using the left side of the brain, right? We're logical and rational and reasoning. And we really want to start developing a sense of what is going on in my physiology. And I'll talk to clients, I'll say, all right, so think of this thing. Where do you feel it in your body? And they'll say, I can't feel anything. And we know, I mean, science has shown us that every single thought creates a corresponding biochemical reaction in our nervous system. So if we're really tuned in, and that's where things like mindfulness and meditation really help, because they're starting to help us to really tune in and feel into our body,
Mhm.
become aware of what's going on in our body, um, especially once the mind is more quiet, we can start to then track different things and where they are in our body, and where they're showing up in our body also give us some clues and some information as to what other things may be going on. So one of the things that I teach clients to do very, very early on, and we can do this right now if you want. You want to go ahead and do this?
Sure, I'm sure people watching would love to have.
Yeah, let's make it. I know they don't want to hear me talk all the time. I'll talk all day. So let's do something. Let's do an energy tool. So this is I call this the body wisdom tool. Okay. And so I'm just going to guide you through it, Holly, and everybody
Okay.
else that's watching, go ahead and do this as well. This is like a really perfect way to start becoming familiar with the way that your body communicates with you. Okay. And before we do this, I just want to say one thing about the body. We all know the mind is comprised of the conscious and subconscious mind. This conscious mind, which is our thoughts, our intention, our willful choice making, all that stuff, that accounts for about 2 to 10% about our behavior. Our conscious decisions drive 2 to 10%. So that means that the subconscious is driving 90 to 98% of our behaviors. And so that gives us a clue as to why it's so hard to change habits, right? Because they become habitual, they become steeped in the subconscious. And the subconscious is very hesitant to allow things to change, because to the subconscious, sameness equals safety, right? And so it becomes difficult for us sometimes to override the subconscious, and we slip back into old habits. And that's because of the difference between conscious and subconscious. But the subconscious also is monitoring and regulating every function in your body. So the tens of thousands of functions that are happening right now to keep you sitting upright, to keep you looking at the screen and processing this information and listening, and also keeping kind of tabs on the environment around you, that's all happening in the subconscious. So it's constantly in communication with our body. And so we can learn things about what's going on in the subconscious mind, by definition, below the level of our conscious awareness, by listening to the body. And so when we're disconnected from our body, we're unable to access or understand what's going on in the subconscious. So the body is a mechanism, it's a doorway in to that part of our awareness that, again, by definition, it's below the level of our conscious awareness. So it's a really important tool. So I just wanted to kind of make some context.
Yeah, I'm glad you set that context. That's great.
Yeah. So, okay. So go ahead and close your eyes. And just receive some nice deep breaths. And so many mind-body practices begin with just closing our eyes and taking deep breaths. And so just go ahead and allow yourself to just notice the sensations that you're experiencing in your body. And just kind of notice where they are in neutral. So just imagine the gear is in neutral. And you want to just bring your awareness to any sensations, might be temperature, pressure, but just really feel what is going on in your body. And do you kind of feel a sense of neutrality there, Holly?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So now I want you to ask your body, show me where yes lives. Show me a yes. And track how the body changes and what happens. And if you're not getting a response right away, keep repeating in your mind, yes. Where is yes? Show me yes. And Holly, since you're our guinea pig at the moment, let me know when you have your yes.
I have my yes.
Okay, fantastic. So keep your eyes closed and go back to neutral. Say thank you, body. Because you're really starting to develop a dialogue with the body when you do this work. So go back to neutral. Let me know when you're back at a neutral place.
Okay, I'm back in neutral.
Beautiful. Just take a deep breath. Really, really good. And so now go ahead and say, body, show me where no lives. What does no feel like? And again, in your mind, you can be repeating the word no and track. Where are the sensations in the body? And for those of you who are having a little bit of a hard time, you can imagine a volume knob and turn up the volume. Imagine turning up the volume on the no, right? Use your imagination. Using your vivid imagination absolutely works, and it affects the energy. So turn up the volume. Looks like Holly's already got her no. Perfect. All right, then go ahead back to neutral. And then open your eyes. So how was that? Can you share?
Yeah, I would love to share. Your turning up the volume was excellent. That was really powerful. It like when I did that, it immediately responded, which was very interesting. So for me, the yes was a very clear heart yes. So what I felt was I felt my heart kind of expand. Was I think the best way I could describe it, and it was very clear. Sort of peaceful, but even more I just felt energetic expansion, actually, even more than I would say like a happy, or it was just expansion. And then my no was a gut-centered feeling that kind of sat, right at my solar plexus. And it was contracted, very contracted.
Excellent. Yeah, those are really common descriptions, like expanded and contracted. Sometimes people will feel heaviness versus lightness. right? So there are different ways that your body is going to communicate with you. And I would encourage everybody to practice this more than once. Holly, I know that you do a lot of mindfulness work and you do a lot of stuff. And so you probably have kind of a nice dialogue already going with your body. So your answers came kind of quickly. But for people who might not do this, and this might be kind of new, it might take a few tries. It might take some time for you to start really creating that dialogue with the body. So do this a few times and see, oh, does yes show up in the same place every time? Sometimes it'll jump around until it lands and settles into kind of a concrete yes and a concrete no with regularity. So you have to play with it, and it definitely requires practice. But this is a great tool to use because you're also starting to build your intuition.
Yeah.
Right?
So let's talk about that. So where do you go from here?
So I would tell clients, practice this tool, learn where your yes and no are, and then start using that guidance as your intuition. So start with little decisions, right? Because people are always like curious about, how do I tap into my intuition? How do I do that? And the 90 to 98% of the information that your subconscious mind is processing is tuned in to your environment. It's tuned in to, quote unquote, accessing your intuition. So you want to use this tool, and you want to use it for little things like, should I have this for lunch or should I have that for lunch? What does your body want? See, is it expanding or is it contracting? And just start to trust it, because then you're starting to build that habit of trusting your intuition and your inner guidance and your inner wisdom. Your body, it holds a ton of wisdom. And I think that, most people have a story of a time when their intuition was saying something and they disregarded it and something didn't work out so well. And later they're like, yeah, I should have listened, And there was somebody that I had talked, this was a while ago, and he said, yeah, all the while I knew I shouldn't marry this person. Right?
That's a big one, not to
follow. Kind of a big one.
It's kind of a big one. Darn.
Divorced. He's like, every time my body, like I would think about it and my, stomach would sink. And I'm like, and that wasn't a big enough clue. Like he's walking down the aisle and his body is screaming, but okay. So we don't have to let things get so extreme when we really start to develop this ability, right? And it's just, again, it's a skill to be cultivated. It's accessible to absolutely all of us, right?
Imagine if we lived in a world, Shweta, where when you were, 3 years old, your parents taught you what a yes and a no was. How valuable would that be, for your whole life, if that was the culture we lived around? Would be so powerful, and would be a very different world.
Yeah. I mean, I think that people would have better relationships. I think that we would just also be in greater harmony with the things that we're ingesting and putting into our bodies. We'd probably be healthier. I think it would be really different. So, and energy is the native language of the universe. So when we're talking about like learning to use our intuition and read energy or track energy, it's really pretty natural. And what's unnatural is the way in which we live now, which is really out of balance with the natural order of things. So babies can see energy. So I don't have the ability to see energy with my physical eyes. I see energy with my inner eye, but there are people who can see energy, just like we see solid matter. They see energy as well, and babies are able to see it. And one of my teachers, Donna Eden, who is just the pioneer of energy medicine, her story is amazing, and I would encourage people to check her out as well. She would say that when she had pregnant clients, she would tell them, talk to your baby about energy, like make it just really normal and natural. And as these babies grew up, they were able to see energy too, because it's something that we actually unlearn. So we're just reminding ourselves now of what we already innately know.
Right. I love that the energy is the language of the universe. I couldn't agree with you more. And, we should all learn to read it. Would be a completely different place.
It would indeed. It would.
We're all on a mission for the gospel of energy language. So that's what we're doing here. We're going to keep spreading the word.
Yeah, for sure. Well, These ancient wisdom traditions knew what they were talking about thousands of years ago, and now we have a body of science to give us scientific language around it. But it's always been there. It's always been there.
Yep. Yep. And we're just sort of gradually bringing it into the Western mindset.
I sure hope so. We need it.
We need it. I'm glad people like you are out there doing this work. It's fabulous. It's fabulous. So where do we take it from here now that you've got, if somebody's got their yes and no, and then you have this nice practice of, do the simple things. What should I have for lunch? And then where does it go from there? Do you have other tips and things you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing is that, a lot of people, they come to me for anxiety. They'll come to me for feelings of self-doubt and lack of confidence and those sorts of things. And, in emotion, any kind of emotion is emotion, energy in motion. And so again, if we track it, we'll know that there are very familiar physical sensations that are happening in our body when we're feeling things like self-doubt or emotion. And self-doubt was a really, really big one for me. And I didn't even put it together until just probably in the last 18 months. I would always feel this weird pressure in my jaw. And I knew that it was there, and I don't know, it's like it was hiding in plain sight. But it related to whenever subconsciously I would start feeling that self-doubt, I would feel pressure. It wasn't even like my jaw tightened. I would just feel this weird pressure in my mouth and my jaw. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it is. And so I did some work around it, and now it really doesn't happen. And now I don't have that same level of self-doubt. I mean, sure, sometimes we all feel it, but it was something that was really impeding me from getting to that next level in my life. And it's not anymore, right? And so one, I want people to know that every emotion is okay and valid. And the reason I know that is because you're feeling it, right? If you're feeling it, it's valid. It's okay. But if it's something that you want to change, track, where does that land in my body? And oftentimes, it's going to land. Sometimes it lands like in somebody's toe. They'll say, oh, my toe started hurting. All right, well, there's nothing wrong with that. We have energy pathways that go all over our body from head to toe. And so there's a reason that it's showing up in somebody's toe, and the same emotion might be showing up in somebody's solar plexus, right? It doesn't matter. There's no wrong in this. So track, where are things in your body? And then use your imagination. So just like I said, the volume knob, and that was really an effective tool for you. It's a tool. Use it. Come up with something that works for your imagination, right? So what would dissolve the self-doubt? I don't know, it could be a color, because it's energy, it's vibration. And so you're instinctively going to know what's going to relieve it for you, right? So let's try another tool. And I want you to think of a goal that you'd like to create. So everybody can think of a goal. And if it's not something that kind of makes you a little nervous, you're thinking too small. So think of something big, right? We want to amplify it and magnetize it. So do you have something, Holly? Okay. And so as soon as you think about that, how does it feel in your body?
For me, there's hesitation or uncertainty.
And can you track that as a sensation in the body?
I think so. Yeah.
And what does that sensation feel like?
Feels a little bit in my head, like a pulling back.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. Yeah, how would I describe it? It would be like getting hit with kind of the wind in your face or something, like sort of pushing me.
Like a retreating?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you feel that, when you think of your goal and you feel that, does that make you want to take action?
No, it makes me hesitant, right?
Absolutely. And so is this a goal that you've had for a long time, or is this a relatively new goal?
It's a fairly let's see, for a year. I'm going to say for a year and a half.
Okay. So it's not, you didn't just come up with it yesterday.
No.
So this is what'll happen, right? So there's something that we want, there's something that we want to create or change or have. And our body is kind of like already, it's like there's a hesitancy, there's a reluctance, there's a pulling back. And so when that happens, oftentimes because we want to avoid pain, right? The subconscious mind, its job is to keep us alive, meaning avoid pain at all costs. We develop an association with this goal could create some sort of pain. I could fail, I could be publicly humiliated, I could lose this, I could whatever. It's going to keep us from taking action. And this is what happens all the time. And I help my clients identify this in them because it's like, okay, well, so your physiology is responding to your psychology, right? You're feeling a hesitation. Your physiology is literally retreating. I mean, it might not be overt, like all the way back, like, but you're kind of feeling a little gentle pull back. And so that keeps us from making progress and moving forward. So what is it that, and you don't have to share this if you don't want to, but what is the mental tape that's playing, that's creating that hesitation?
For me, this goal is, tied to sort of financial. So it's, will I be financially successful? Like I'm trying to make a transition, So will I be, financially successful in making this transition?
So, okay. And so when there's anything with money, there's a lot of baggage with that, right? And so it's not something that we're going to unpack in these next few minutes of our call. But I'm going to give you a tool for this because it's so normal, right? Because there's a lot that's tied up in everybody's money story. So, that's worth exploring and looking into. And if there are any kind of, I would recommend journaling about it because journaling is a great way to get things out of our mind. And then almost we have a little bit of a dialogue with ourselves in the journaling process. And with journaling, I would always recommend writing it with a pen on paper rather than digitally because there's something different that happens in the brain when we actually put pen to paper and we can process things much more thoroughly that way. So I would, for you, Holly, and anybody who's having some back talk or there's some sort of resistance and some sort of tape that's playing and we all have them, I would ask these 3 things in a journaling practice. So I would do this and we're going to do an energy exercise in a second. So I would say my mind is saying this, right? So I want this. My mind is saying this. Do I choose to believe that it's true? Right? Do I choose to believe that, I could lose everything, I could be a complete failure, Do I choose, right? It's about choose because the conscious mind chooses, the subconscious mind reacts, okay? And subconscious always overrides conscious. 90 to 98% always overrides 2 to 10%, right? You might be able to hold it off for a while, that's willpower, but ultimately the willpower is gonna not be enough. Typically, it usually at some point backfires. And then if you're choosing for it not to be true, how would you choose to shift what you believe? How would you choose to shift what you would believe? So you can do this on your own, right? And do it the journaling practice. What was I going to say? It flew out of my head. So you can ask these questions on your own and do the journaling practice. The other thing that you can do is something called tapping. And have you ever done tapping, Holly?
I have done tapping. It's very incredibly powerful. But
let's do some tapping.
Yeah.
So do you want me to describe, or do you want to describe what it is or what your experience with tapping is?
Well, why don't you go ahead and describe it since you brought it to us?
Okay. So tapping is just it's like needleless acupuncture. So you're using the same acupuncture points that are on the pathways in the body, but instead of using needles, you're using your finger and you're just tapping. And I know it looks really odd, but what's happening is when you tap, there is a current that goes through the pathway, and it kind of, imagine it like kind of pushing the emotion and the energetic residue that's kind of blocking those pathways. It's pushing it through. And so you're getting a much more clear signal that's traveling through. And any emotional residue or any trauma, all sorts of stuff lives in our energy systems and our nervous system. And so as the emotional residue and stuff is being unblocked and flowing, it's also sending that message to the nervous system that things are safe, you can calm down. Because typically what will happen is when we feel any kind of resistance, at a very low threshold, the fight, flight, freeze response starts to get activated. And when that's activated, up to 80% of the blood leaves our forebrain and it goes to the large muscle groups to facilitate either beating somebody up, fighting, or getting the heck out of there, fleeing. So we lose the resources. We lose our cognitive ability and our ability to think rationally and logically and problem solve when we go into fight or flight. So we basically go offline, and tapping helps to bring us back online, right? Because it's working with the energy systems to then send the signal to the nervous system, hey, you're okay. And then you go back online. And so then you have, your faculties back. So that's what tapping does. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a great explanation.
Yeah.
Understand. Yeah.
Thanks. So, so you can just follow with us, everybody. You can think of the issue that you have. And in Holly's case, we're just going to use that hesitation, right? And you can rate whatever it is that came up for you. So if it's fear, self-doubt, anxiety, whatever it may be, just rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. And we're just going to do this for a few minutes or a few rounds, just in the interest of time. But you want to just get a starting point. So how intense on a scale of 0 to 10, Holly, would you say that hesitation?
Oh gosh, it's probably maybe a 5.
A 5. Okay, yeah. So that's good. It's something to work with.
Yeah.
So again, everybody go ahead and come up with a number, just a starting point. And you're going to just go to the side of your hand, which is called the karate chop point, and you're going to tap. And it doesn't matter which side you start with and which one you tap, they're both sides. So you're just going to tap, and you're going to do what's called the setup statement. So for Holly, we'll do, even though I'm feeling this hesitation, and repeat.
Even though I'm feeling this hesitation,
I choose to accept myself.
I choose to accept myself.
And at home, you can either tap with the words that we're saying or fill in for hesitation, fill in whatever emotion it is that you're feeling. It'll still work if you use our words. So even though I'm feeling some hesitation.
Even though I'm feeling some hesitation.
And I can feel that it's pulling me back.
And I can feel that it's pulling me back.
I accept my feelings.
I accept my feelings.
Even though I'm feeling hesitation.
Even though I'm feeling hesitation.
And it's keeping me from taking steps forward.
And it's keeping me from taking steps forward.
I'm ready to change.
I'm ready to change.
But I'm going to accept how I feel right now anyway.
But I'm going to accept how I feel right now anyway.
Great. And so now you're going to go to the eyebrow point again. You can do one. It's the inner corner of the eyebrow. And just tune into the hesitation in your body, Holly, the physical sensations of the hesitation you feel that relate to that goal, and just say this hesitation.
This hesitation.
And then the side of the eye, this hesitation in my head.
This hesitation in my head.
Under the eye, this hesitation that I'm feeling.
This hesitation that I'm feeling.
Under the nose, it's keeping me a little stuck.
It's keeping me a little stuck.
Chin, it's keeping me from taking action.
It's keeping me from taking action.
Collarbone, it's keeping me in a place of questioning.
It's keeping me in a place of questioning.
And under the arm, so it's like a hand's width below your armpit, kind of where the bra line would be for women. This hesitation.
This hesitation.
It's become so familiar.
It's become so familiar.
It's been with me for 1.5 years.
It's been with me for 1.5 years.
Side of the eye, this hesitation.
This hesitation.
It lives in my mind and body.
Lives in my mind and body.
It's just here to keep me safe.
It's just here to keep me safe.
So I'm just going to say thank you.
So I'm just going to say thank you.
I'm going to just accept it.
Gonna just accept it.
I'm just going to let it be.
Just gonna let it be.
Top of the head. Part of me doesn't want to.
Part of me doesn't want to.
But I'm going to accept it for now.
I'm gonna accept it for now.
Okay, take a breath in. And we're going to keep going. But I just want to acknowledge we oftentimes have resistance to it. We've been pushing at the very thing that's trying to protect us. And that's what creates the stuckness. Because from an energy perspective, we're giving energy by resisting or pushing back to the resistance that's keeping us from taking steps forward. Does that make sense? So it's like by not accepting the fact that some part of you has hesitation, you're actually keeping yourself more stuck.
Yeah, that does make sense. And then energetically when we talk about, in meditation, reducing resistance to allow energy to come in or letting go, and that's very similar. I'm very familiar with that. It's a different way of looking at it, but it's the same thing. Yeah.
And it's just an energy, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do we have time to do a couple more rounds, or do we need to wrap?
Sure.
I know that I want to be mindful of the time.
I'm okay if you want to go a little bit more.
Okay, great.
Yeah, since we started a little late too, so.
We did. So just tune into yourself again and just notice as you think of that goal and that hesitation, just notice if anything has changed, and you're going to rate it now.
I think I feel calmer about it. Maybe if I were to rate it, be like a 3.5,
Be a 3.5. It moved a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's see if we can get it to move a little bit more. Okay. So you're going to just go ahead, and we're not going to do karate chop point. You're just going to go right into the eyebrow point. You're just going to say the remaining hesitation.
The remaining hesitation.
Side of the eye, there's still some there.
There's still some there.
Under the eye, I feel calmer.
I feel calmer.
Under the nose, I do feel calmer.
I do feel calmer.
Chin point, but there's still a little hesitation there.
There's still a little hesitation there.
Collarbone point, I wonder what that's about.
Wonder what that's about.
Under the arm point, I wonder why it's still there.
I wonder why it's still there.
Top of the head, because I really want this goal.
Because I really want this goal.
I know you do. I really, really want this goal.
I really, really want this goal.
Side of the eye. So I wonder why there's any hesitation.
So I wonder why there's any hesitation.
Maybe it's not hesitation.
Maybe it's not hesitation.
Under the nose. Maybe it's just a feeling of being unfamiliar with something.
Maybe it's just a feeling of being unfamiliar with something.
My mind trying to keep me safe.
My mind's trying to keep me safe.
Collarbone point. And it's just doing its job.
And it's just doing its job.
And I'm calling that hesitation.
I'm calling that hesitation.
Top of the head. What if I just labeled it something different?
What if I just labeled it something different?
Eyebrow point. What if I had just called that excitement?
What if I just called that excitement?
Side of the eye. What if I just reframed it?
What if I just reframed it?
Under the eye. I think that's what I'm going to do.
I think that's what I'm going to do.
Nose point. I think I'm just going to call it something different.
I think I'm just going to call it something different.
And I'm going to chin point, and I'm going to keep focusing more on the goal.
And I'm going to keep focusing more on the goal.
Column point, outcome, desire.
The outcome and the desire.
Under the arm, I'm going to focus on the outcome.
I'm going to focus on the outcome.
Top of the head, and just call this energy excitement.
And just call this energy excitement.
Okay, so take a breath in. And let it go. What do you notice?
That I can feel the reframe shift to excitement. It feels different. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
Smile came onto your face.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah, your energy shifted.
What a shift. Golly. Woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
That's awesome. So hopefully everybody at home got some shift in their emotion that they were feeling, but that's just, you saw like exactly like just in these few minutes, there's a shift. So now when you think of that goal, can you think of a next step that you would be ready to take?
Mm-hmm. You mean a concrete step, like in my life kind of a thing?
Yeah, and it's not like, oh my, all of a sudden I'm like taking this enormous step, like a baby step. What's just the next logical thing that one would do?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, it's a big thing that I chose as my thing. So I'm not sure I have something right here, but the energy shift around it and the reframe is really powerful. And I could see that that could motivate me in a way to kind of think through that next step in a different way than I had been. So
yeah, that's fantastic. And oftentimes when we, you know, if it is a big change that we want to make, we just need to chunk it down. Just make it like, what's just the next little, you know, little itty bitty thing that I can do to just kind of, I say, move the ball down the field, right? So you can come up with that. And from this place that you're in energetically, it's likely more accessible to you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I have to give you a fun little side note. When we were doing the tapping and I'm repeating after you, I had visions of, I don't know if you ever went to summer camp, but I had visions of summer camp. We used to sit around the fire and go, going on a squeegee hunt, going on a squeegee hunt, gonna catch a big
I did not.
No, you did not. That's an American thing. Other people may relate. Felt like I was at summer camp.
I'm sure.
My best memories are at summer camp. So
that's great. Thing. That's great.
Good deal. Well, I really hope that the people following along and the people who will follow along after and watch the replay really get something out of that. I just I felt that it was a very useful exercise, and I could really actually see using that, you know, for other issues. That's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with us.
My pleasure. That's great. You did a great job, Paul.
Well, yeah, you did a great job leading. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was great. Yeah. It's fun. It's so much fun to see the shift in people. It's just, you know, it's just a few minutes, and imagine being able to do this on, you know, deep layers of things. And it's just really, and I also like, because this is something that I teach clients to do on their own. And so it empowers people to know that, hey, I have these great tools that I can use to really shift my emotional state. And when our emotional state shifts, then the access to like the actions that we're going to take shifts completely.
Yeah.
So it's really freeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, like everybody should be taught these tools when they're 5, 6, 7 years old, so they have them for their whole life, right?
Totally. Teach your kids. Teach your kids. Love it.
Well, Shweta, before we wrap up, is there anything else is there anything else specific around this that you want to mention? And then I'll move on to sort of how people can find you and work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, the EFT is terrific. And the other thing that I really like, and I teach people, it's just a word. It's when you talk about doing reframes, and reframes are really, really important when we want to have a transformation, is just one simple word, because people will often ask questions. Thinking is a process of asking and answering questions, basically. That's really what we're doing when we're thinking. And so a lot of times people will say, why is this happening to me? Or why does my back still hurt? Or whatever. And it's like you're kind of asking a lousy question and you're going to get a lousy answer. But when you just put in one itty bitty word, it changes it. And I'll tell you why. So you're going to put in the word, I wonder why back still hurts. And when you put in that, what happens is when you say, why does my back still hurt? You're asking your mind to seek an answer based on a frame of reference of the past. It's looking back toward, well, it could be because I lifted this heavy box. It could be this. It's looking behind you. When you say, I wonder, some other possibilities open up, right? So I wonder, like if you say, and maybe back isn't the best thing. I wonder why I'm getting
you did it with me in the when we were doing the tapping, and I actually noticed that when you put in the word I wonder, it was curious, and to me it added this future possibility, and
that's what I'm trying to
playfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And and levity, it added levity too, like curiosity, right? I wonder why.
Curiosity, exactly. And it activates the right hemisphere of the brain when we say wonder, because you go into a place of possibility and creativity, whereas I, without the wonder, just goes back to, again, the reference points that we have and the same stories we've been telling. And so wonder really creates some spaciousness and some possibility where otherwise there might not have been.
Completely. I thought that was brilliant. I very much noticed that. And I love how you're like, it is just that one little word. How funny, right? Language is so powerful that way. That one word can shift our whole perspective on something. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Thank you for articulating that for me. I couldn't get it out.
It's a team effort here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, I would imagine after this that there are people who are interested in working with you. So tell us how, if they do want to work with you, how do they find you?
Well, you can find me on Facebook. So I have a Facebook page called Shweta Shyamani Mindset Coach Game Changer. So that's my business page. You can message me on there. You can go to my website, which is Personal Point of Power. It's also linked from my Facebook page. So you can go to my website and contact me through there. Email, phone, all my contact information is on there. Feel free to direct message me, even on Facebook. We're streaming on Facebook, so feel free to direct message me on Facebook. And I would love to connect with you. I work with people virtually, and I've been working with people virtually for a decade. So it's not just in response to all the stuff that's going on now. I've worked with clients all over the country, some of whom I have never met because we worked only over the phone. So I didn't even see them, but I've worked with people all over the country and for years. So working together is very, very possible, even amidst all of this stuff. And if you're in Chicago, and if we can ever get back to our offices, I do also have an office in Chicago. But for now, we can certainly work together over Zoom.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. So Personal Point of Power is her website, and I'll be sure to put in the show notes to your website if people lose it. And I will, folks, post this video on YouTube as well, on my Heart Mind Alchemy site, and then you can grab it and link it from there. So
great.
Yeah, really, really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving us these practical tips that people can watch this video and learn about tapping. They can learn how to tap in and find yeses and nos in their body. Such a simple thing. I really believe it. I believe everybody should teach their kids that when you're 3 years old, and it would probably change the world.
One bit at a time.
Yep. And if nobody taught you when you were 3, then now's the time.
Yeah, it's never too late. We can learn it now.
Right. And I feel like if people ask themselves, what should I have for lunch? And they really could listen, like McDonald's would be out of business because nobody's going to say yes to McDonald's.
I don't know. My body says yes to French fries often.
Oh, well, yeah, my body says yes to French fries too.
My body says yes to chocolate. So,
And yes to, yeah. Awesome.
That's a whole different show. There's a whole different conversation we can have about energy and food and allergies and all sorts of things.
Oh, great. Can I invite you back to talk about allergies and energy and food?
Absolutely.
All right. I'd love to have you back, and we'll do food and allergies. And meanwhile, we can all go eat some chocolate and French fries.
And love it up. There's a totally different, your body processes it differently if you love it versus if you say I shouldn't be eating it and eat it anyway. Totally different experience in the body. So if you're going to have it, love every bite of it. Love it.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with you 100%. All right. Well, thank you so much. I am just thrilled that you came on. Really appreciate it. And folks, if you're interested in the work that I do, I'm a human potential coach. I was just certified last week. Woo! Woo, super excited. So I work with folks on I work on folks on mindfulness and meditation and brain clarity and health and getting clear about your mind and body so you can move forward and be unlimited. And you can find me at heartmindalchemy.com and on Facebook at Heart Mind Alchemy as well. So anyway, we'll try to have a next show lined up next week. I'm not sure what it's going to be. We'll figure it out between now and then. All right. Hey, everybody, have a really great evening. So appreciate everybody who was on. So
Thank you for being here.
yep. Thank you so much for being here.